quorum that is present. Is there any public comment for our board meeting?
Public comment.
Being no public comment, we will recess into closed session. It is 6 p.m. and I will call the meeting of the Valley Center-Pauma Unified Board of Trustees to order, and we have a quorum present. Member Benjamin is absent. And let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Need to open your heart.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I like, we didn't guess. Okay, there is nothing to report out of closed session this evening. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda, additions, deletions, and corrections. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made and a second. Any discussion?
I'll second.
Second. And further discussion? Let's go for the vote. Member Benjamin is absent. Member Caputo?
Aye.
Member Kolb Sr.?
Aye.
Member Worthy?
Aye.
And Member Stroh votes aye. Request to address the board is...
We have no request tonight.
Okay, being none, let's move on to our next part of our meeting. Exciting part. The board will hear a presentation and conduct a public hearing on the 2024-2025 LCAP Local Control Accountability Plan.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And it's that time of year again, so I know our Assistant Superintendent, Mr. Hellwood, has done a great job on this report, so I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you very much, President Stroh, board members, Superintendent McCowan, and other district staff. Thank you for this time to present to you our updated Local Control and Accountability Plan, commonly known as the LCAP, for the coming 24-25 school year. Tonight, I would like to continue from our previous presentations on the LCAP development process as we move into a new 3-year cycle and new requirements for this LCAP. Over the course of the school year, we have moved through many of the steps to develop next year's LCAP. Here you can see an overview of the steps that we have taken, starting with review and analysis of metrics and data, going all the way back to December, and then input that we've gathered from different groups, and then also moving that input into proposed goals and actions that were presented to the board in May. In each step of this process, we've continued to look at how we can best meet our students' needs, ongoing opportunities to growth, and most importantly, the best level of service that we can provide to our community. Tonight, we'll be hearing an update of our LCAP in a completed form, and then the last step on that list is board action and county review that will take place on Thursday of this week. This leads us to the LCAP being presented with the following elements. I will highlight some of these elements with examples that illustrate the requirements that we must meet as a district for different actions and metrics. I'm not going to be presenting all aspects of the LCAP this evening, only because we have presented many of those before. We're just going to look at some specific areas with examples for each. The driving force of our district LCAP is our goals and how they align with the work we do to support our students. We continue this year with our 3 broad goals from previous years, representing a positive school climate, academic success with college and career readiness, and communication and gathering of input for decision-making with our partners. These 3 goals align with our district mission and drive the actions and services that are found in our LCAP. In addition, we have developed 3 focus goals. Focus goals are more concentrated in scope, have fewer related metrics, they're time-bound, and they're usually targeting specific areas that we want to address as a district. So here you can see our 3 focus goals. Goal 4, working with the needs of students with disabilities and serving them in their least restrictive environment. Goal 5, really targeting college and career readiness in our district as measured by the California Schools Dashboard with the college and career indicator. And then goal 6, also known as an equity multiplier goal, which is targeting Oak Glen High School and Valley Center Prep with specific services for student groups in specific areas as listed. Each district's local control and accountability plan must focus on 8 priority areas that helps all students succeed. These 8 priority areas reflect factors both inside and outside the classroom that positively impact student success. Part of the LCAP process is working with our local partners and the county to make sure that our plan clearly addresses all of these priority areas as listed. Here you can see the state priority areas and related LCAP goals going into the 24-25 school year. Each state priority must be connected to metrics that we measure as a district and actions that are in place that are designed to improve outcomes in that related metric. Here is an example from our LCAP showing how priority 8, other people outcomes, is aligned to LCAP goal 2. An example metric from our LCAP that's listed, which would be locally, we look at our report card grades at the secondary level, the percent of students receiving A through C grades. Here you can see the data from the 2023 school year, and then the related actions that in our LCAP address that particular kind of metric as listed with the purpose of improving it. Here you can see for math, moving from 62% with a 3-year target out of 80% or higher. Starting this year, each school district's LCAP must respond to low-performing areas on the California Schools dashboard. This is a new area of our LCAP that has not been required before, where we must, for the district and each school in our district, for each student group in the district overall, and for each student group within a school, any student group where you can kind of see them here where they're in the red, so essentially the lowest level of performance, has to be specifically connected to an action in our LCAP. So here you can see those required areas for our district overall. If we were going to look at them, you can see those in red. For example, if we kind of look at the second column, chronic absenteeism, we have a high level of chronic absenteeism for American Indian students and for white students in our district overall. So looking at these required actions, at the bottom of this screen, you can see for each of those areas a listing of the actions in our LCAP that relate. And I provided an example just to illustrate what this might look like. So the example of chronic absenteeism. For the district overall, student groups American Indians and whites have a high level of chronic absenteeism. And then looking at one of our school sites, the primary school, English learners, Hispanic students, and socioeconomically disadvantaged students also have a high level of chronic absenteeism. Using this, we create an action in our LCAP. Here, the example is action 1.11, attendance monitoring and communication, which is designed to address that level of chronic absenteeism with a specific focus on those student groups. So here we have site-based and district support through school attendance review teams, addressing groups with the greatest attendance and engagement needs, along with systematic notifications provided to parents. So again, specific actions to work to improve outcomes for those specific student groups. Here you can see another example related to college and career readiness, where student groups, district, overall, American Indian, English learners, Hispanic, homeless, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and students with disabilities. And at Oak Glen High School, all student groups. So an action that we put into our LCAP is action 6.2, CTE expansion and exploration. So being that this is college and career readiness, CTE is, or career technical education, is a large component of that. So we will be expanding pathways at Oak Glen High School and VC Prep for additional sections, online hybrid coursework, internship opportunities, and career explorations leading to post-secondary career options. And that's over the next 3 years. And then below that, you can see, again, actions related to those dashboard areas that we're working on as a district. So districts must also meet the requirement to increase or improve services by providing services, staffing, and resources that seek to address the unique needs of their unduplicated students. Unduplicated students are English learners, low income, foster youth, and homeless youth. And we have to look at what are we doing in our district that specifically contributes towards meeting the requirement to service these students. To do this, we look at the scope of different actions. They can be LEA-wide, school-wide, or limited. A LEA-wide action, for example, would be something like transportation. So we provide transportation to all students in our district, but we know that one of the key student groups that is positively impacted by providing that throughout our district, or LEA-wide, are students who are students who are in that low-income group. We can see if we look at the chronic absenteeism of that low-income group, it's 43.6%, which is quite high. So having that transportation in place, the idea is that contributes to meeting that student's group's need, even though it can be accessed by any student in our district. A school-wide example would be additional school sections that we have put in place. Sections added to school sites to provide additional intervention, improve student learning outcomes. Again, those sections target specific student groups in our unduplicated category at specific schools, but may be accessed by any student in need. The last example would be a limited action in this area. This is one where the action is only targeting those specific student groups. So here an example is District English Language Development TOSA. So a staff member that we have in place that is there to meet the needs of our English learner students only. So again, a limited action that would only directly have a positive impact on that one student group. And here you can see at the bottom some of the metrics that relate to that limited action and why it's in place. So tonight's presentation really highlights some examples of some of the different requirements and areas of our LCAP. Combined with the previous presentations given to the board and steps in the development of our LCAP, is my hope that this process has been clear. Following this presentation and tonight's public hearing, any additional revisions for the LCAP will be made. At the regular board meeting this Thursday, June 20th, the LCAP will be provided for your final approval, along with our local indicator report and federal addendum. After that meeting, we will work with our County Office of Education and seek their final approval on the required components of our LCAP. Thank you for this time to provide you with this update and for your guidance as we plan and prepare for how to best serve the students, families, and staff of our school district.
Thank you very much for the great, lengthy, and detailed report. We appreciate it. And now we are going to gavel in to our public hearing on the LCAP, and it is 6:13, time in. Is there any public comment on the LCAP?
I do not see any public comment.
No public comment. So we will gavel out at 6:13, time out. Thank you. Business Division, the board will hear a presentation and conduct a public hearing on the district's budget for the 2024-2025 school year.
Thank you, President Stroh. Before I begin, I'd like to thank our Director of Finance, Laura Anzo, for all of her hard work and dedication in putting together this, her very first school budget. I'm very proud of her, and we're very lucky to have her on our team. So thanks, Laura. I'm presenting to you our proposed budget for 2024-25, which is based on assumptions from the governor's May revision. The legislature presented its budget last week, but the real details are still being negotiated between the legislature and the governor before his deadline to either sign or veto the budget at the end of the month. The best we can do is based on these assumptions, even though it isn't the final state adopted budget. It's always worth noting that our state has the same deadline that we do, and that's to adopt our budget by June 30th. This makes the process a little problematic for us, but we always make it work. We also had the LCAP hearing tonight because it's required that we adopt our budget concurrently with the LCAP because they align as far as revenue and expenditures are concerned. Finally, we will bring the board the unaudited actuals for the current year after we close the books in September. Before speaking about our budget, I'd like to quickly discuss the state's budget. If you recall, during our last meeting for the second interim, there was an $8.8 billion drop in the 2022-23 Prop 28 minimum guarantee between the final calculated value and what was adopted in the state's 2023-24 budget. This, along with lower than expected revenues, created a massive shortfall in the school funding for the 3-year period. To address this shortfall, the legislature and the governor both announced funding plans recently. In cooperation with the California Teachers Association, the governor announced a deal that would abandon the funding maneuver in favor of cash deferrals, the use of Prop 98 reserves, and the suspension of the Prop 98 minimum guarantee for the 2023-24 fiscal year. Now, the legislature has passed their proposal, and that includes $114 billion in 2024-25 Prop 98 funding. The legislature and the governor will now negotiate a new deal before enacting the final budget on July 1st. While neither of these deals is great for schools, they are both better than the proposals that were circling around the May revision. However, if the final enacted budget does include cash deferrals, that would give us pause. Our 2024-25 budget assumptions are based on an enrollment of 3,651 students, which is based on a cohort rollover study and represents a decline. An unduplicated pupil count of 63%, and as Mark mentioned, that's foster, homeless, English learners, and free and reduced meal students. A funded ADA of 3,445, which is based on a 3-year rolling average, a COLA of 1.07%, employer contributions for STRS at 19.1%, and an increase to the PERS contribution to 27.05%. Based on those assumptions, the estimated revenue for the budget year 2024-25 are as follows. Our LCFF sources, which include property taxes, are estimated to be roughly $48.2 million. The federal revenue is expected to be about $44.5 million. State revenue is just around $6 million, and our local revenue is estimated to be almost $3.3 million, totaling total revenue for $62,165,496. The estimated expenditures include roughly $28 million for certificated salaries, almost $11 million for classified salaries, $17 million for employee benefits for both employee classes, $2.8 million for books and supplies, $9.3 million for services and operating expenses, almost $900,000 in capital outlay, $130,000 in outgoing costs, and $215,000 in transfers out, totaling projected expenditures of $69,174,615. Taken together, the general fund is estimated to have a beginning fund balance of almost $37 million. However, after accounting for revenues and expenditures for the year, the expected ending fund balance will drop to just below $30 million. The assumptions used to generate the multi-year projection are based on recommendations from the School Services of California and the Department of Finance. I've already shared the assumptions for 2024-25, but you can see the assumptions that we have for the 2 out years. These include COLA estimates of just about 3% for the 2 out years, as well as the continued trend in declining enrollment. Based on the previous assumptions, this is the summary of our multi-year projection. These projections begin with our projected beginning balance, which is the balance after this year's fiscal closes, and then include the projected COLAs for the next 3 years, and assume that we will be carrying the same staffing levels in the out years. The MYP also includes step and column costs, the increase to non-payroll costs due to inflation. For our district, we estimated those to be around 3 to 5%, depending on which services they were. And after taking all these assumptions into account, we project a net decrease of over $21 million over the next 3-year period. On this slide, you can see the impact of our current assumptions on the unrestricted ending fund balance. As our enrollment and ADA decline, we anticipate experiencing significant declines in our reserves over the next couple of years. However, we project to maintain a healthy enough balance that we will be able to meet our fiscal obligations for this year and the next 2 years. As stated previously, the district continues to experience declining enrollment. Following COVID, the district was held harmless for a few years. However, the funding formula has returned to normal, and our anticipated revenue will be negatively impacted. While our attendance rate has been increasing steadily, it still lags behind our pre-COVID figures. The district continues to work hard to emphasize the importance of attendance for our students. So what's ahead? A public hearing on this proposal will be brought forward on Thursday and enacted by the governing board if you choose to. If the state throws us any curveballs by adopting a budget that is significantly different than what we're using for our assumptions, we can always come back with a revised budget in August. And as always, we will continue to monitor the political and economic landscape for any potential impacts on the district. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you for your great, extensive, and great explanation in this challenging report.
Michael, can I just ask one question? What attendance rate did you use for the 3-year MYP?
We used the current attendance rate of around 91.5 for this year, but then we anticipated a 92% in the 2 out years.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, we will now gavel in to our public hearing on the budget. Time in is 6:21. Is there any public comment on the budget? Being none, we will time out at 6:22. Moving into human resource, reduced work program certificated. Have you moved forward?
Share a few words about this program. In the state of California, of course, teachers and other certificated employees have a pension through the CalSTRS program. For teachers that are close to retirement, CalSTRS has a reduced workload program. The teacher in this case has to have at least 10 years of experience and be age 55 or older. And so in a normal year, every year that you work, you get 1 additional year of service credit, and that's used to calculate your final benefit. What this program allows folks that are really close to retirement to do is they can work a less than 100% contract. So in this case, the teacher wants to work an 80% contract, but the district still contributes to CalSTRS as if the employee was 100%. Ultimately, this can result in savings to the school district because the employee is incentivized to reduce their schedule down to an 80% schedule. And as a, I guess, a thank you, for lack of a better word, we contribute as if they worked the entire year at 100%. And so then if that teacher, for example, had 25 years, at the end of the next year, instead of 25.8 years, they would have 26 total years. And then they can use that to, calculate their final retirement benefit through CalSTRS when they actually do retire. Any questions?
How is that saving the district? I guess I didn't quite understand that.
So Michael had the figures up for CalSTRS and what they were. I think it was 19%. Yeah, 19.1%. Okay. That's the contribution. And so if the employee was on 80%, we would pay 80% of the 19.1%, but instead we pay the entire 19.1%, which is smaller than the money they earn actually teaching that 5th class.
Okay.
And these tend to be, obviously, these are folks that are close to retirement at this point in time, so they tend to be our highest compensated teachers as well.
Right.
And so by reducing those teachers, and even if you were to take, for example, even a situation where, for example, you needed that section, you needed that math teacher to teach all 5 sections, for example, you could fill that in likely with a less experienced teacher and that would be less money, right? And so it's, on balance, it's a savings for the school district.
Okay.
And in this case, honestly, we were able to put them, the high school was able to put the master schedule together without that section that this teacher was going to teach. So it worked out perfectly.
Great. Thank you for that clarification.
Of course.
Okay, so moving forward then, do I have a motion? Okay, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, and any further discussion? Being none, let's vote. Member Benjamin is absent. Member Caputo?
Aye.
Member Kolb Senior?
Aye.
Member Worthy?
Aye.
And Member Stroh votes aye. Advanced planning, the next regular board meeting will be June 20th, 2024. It's Thursday at 6 p.m. And do I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion. Oh.
We're all making it.
A motion.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and any discussion? Being none, let's vote. Member Benjamin is absent. Member Caputo?
Aye.
Member Kolb Senior?
Aye.
Member Worthy?
Aye.
And Member Stroh votes aye. Meeting adjourned.